Hi, I'm Kristin Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Hi, everybody. Welcome to Are You a Charlotte? Today, fun guest. She is returning, the fantastic writer, Jenny Bicks. She wrote the incredible episode Frenemies, which aired on October 1st in the year 2000. So we're going to rewatch with Jenny and hear all of her reminiscing and talk about the process in the writer's room. So enjoy, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're talking to Jenny Bicks about Frenemies.
Good. We're talking about Frenemies.
Frenemies, which is like such an incredible episode. I'm so thrilled that I have you to talk to about it.
I can't believe, I was so pleased to rewatch it because I'm really proud of it.
It's amazing.
A really good episode, but let's talk about you in that episode.
I was dying. I did not remember that was this episode at all.
I hadn't remembered that either. I was like, yes, girl, you go.
But also you wrote it. So yes, girl, you go.
Okay, let's both go. But right? I did not have to do a scene on camera.
Oh, I was panicked. So panicked. So nervous about that scene.
Drastically.
Thank you. I am happy. It's one of those ones, thank goodness. And I mean, it lives on in memes and whatnot, right? But it is really great within the episode, to see it in its full context and also watching them in order. And because I couldn't really remember what happened with Trey. I mean, I vaguely knew, but like seeing every episode again is super fascinating because of course, they're so hampered by the fact that they won't talk it out. That's like their central problem really is that they aren't open to, he's really not open to discussing and going to therapy and doing all the things you would do. So she's got to like, what if I do this? What if I do that? And it's not exactly Charlotte's forte to discuss difficult things,
No, she's got a lot of strengths, but that's not
totally. So it's perfect in a way to watch them. Like it's the perfect conflict that you guys created because of course he is so incredible and gorgeous and all of the things. And then it's just frustrating to watch. So, and then I was like, wait, is this also, I didn't remember that this is when I am the Samantha of my old sorority group. I didn't remember. Frenemies is packed with action.
It's packed with action, packed with theme. Every character has such a, here's why I kind of really love it is we really explore the relationships between the girls. Like we really put them up against each other.
Which is rare. Really rare.
Hence the title, or part of why we use that title. And it's like, wow, they're really having to, they're not messing around. Like that coffee shop scene where you and Samantha get it, and then, Carrie Miranda are some of the best eye work, by the way.
So great. The eye work, incredible.
She does there.
Also, I was dying. I wanted to cover my face when I was watching it.
Right.
Oof. Didn't remember that either. But then, okay, so I have so many questions. First of all, was Frenemies in the cultural lexicon at this point or no?
No. So here's what's interesting. I was trying to discern whether there's a version of this where we came up with that word.
Right. But I don't know.
What I do remember for sure is when I think Darren walked in and said this word and we were like, this is a brilliant word. We none of us had heard the word before. Mm-hmm. So we certainly had never heard it. So I don't know where it came from, but it was not in the universe.
Right.
It's a great word, right?
It's a great word.
Part of all of our lexicon. But at the time, it was a word we'd never heard in the writer's room. And so anytime you bring a word like that to writers, we're like, yes and yes.
Yeah. It's a great word.
We had never heard the word.
Amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I wonder, we'd have to ask Darren where he heard it or if he just came up with it. But I mean, it's such a good word. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember? It would have already happened, I think, or maybe it's coming. Do you remember when we say, did you Google him?
Right.
Right. And I don't think it was, commonly said at that point. No. I don't know if we coined it exactly, but we definitely put it out there.
Put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's like that. It might be hard to find the actual root.
Yeah, but I can absolutely promise you that when that word was brought up in the writer's room, we were stunned. We're like, that's brilliant, brilliant word. And it became the basis of it. It fed so fantastically into the stories that we wanted to tell for each of the characters at that point in their journey that season.
Absolutely. Now, is this the episode? This is what I remember, and I don't know if it's accurate, that when the Miranda Carey storyline came up where they were kind of, hashing out, should Miranda date someone that Carey had previously dated, and they discuss it very much head on. Was that something that HBO had something to say about? Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, because it's either this episode or one before where we kind of cut it. But there was something where at some point they were supposed to kind of argue about a guy. And Carolyn Strauss, I believe, said, we cannot argue about a guy. We can discuss a guy, right? But they need to be on the same team.
That's interesting. I wonder, it rings more of a bell for me when they were fighting about Baryshnikov. That when they were fighting on the street. That was a very intense moment because we hadn't had them fight, and that was a discussion that we did have with HBO.
Got it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. That's later, though.
That is much later.
Yeah, interesting.
Seasons later. So I don't remember having that specific discussion, but I know that we often were aware that we did not want this to be a show about, I want this guy, no, you want this guy,
right.
There was not a show about cock blocking.
No.
Or whatever the opposite.
I don't even know what the proper term is.
I don't know.
I totally know what you mean. But I mean, and I think that was an important thing because we are dealing with relationships, and anytime a show is dealing with relationships, you can kind of slide into the soap opera-ness of it. And we didn't want that. And we wanted the women to be, even if they might disagree, united in terms of we're on each other's side. We're never going to fight over a guy, meaning who gets the guy.
Who gets the guy.
We can have opinions about
whether a guy, and certainly we had those fights all the time about Big.
Right.
And there were some of the characters who were pro Big and some that weren't, and some that were pro at certain times, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it was never going to be, I want this guy.
Right. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I mean, it's funny too, this is one of those episodes where if you had said to me, Frenemies, I would have thought I remembered the whole thing, but I never would have placed these different scenes together all in one episode. It's so many important scenes and for so all of us.
Stories, and it's interesting, when I was rewatching it, I was reminded that Carrie's main storyline, which is that she's going to do the talk to the single women and how that goes, and are we getting older and wiser or just older?
Right.
Is quite different than the frenemies theme that we're dealing with throughout the rest of the episode. Right?
So true. Yeah.
But sometimes we would be able to do that, which makes it more fun. Like you launch a story where you have Miranda, they're trying to figure out where this guy is, and turns out he's dead, which is crazy and funny and bizarre. But it becomes about her being a single woman, Carrie being a single woman, and trying to explain that at the same time that we're dealing with, her Miranda not knowing where her date is, and what is it like to get older and not know how to deal with being stood up, which is really where that storyline started from, because we were talking in the room about how different ways that people get stood up. And I do remember Cindy Shupak was telling this story, and I don't mean to take her story, but I give her all of this because it's crazy New York stories about how she was waiting for her date to come pick her up in a New York apartment building with a doorman, and the doorman rang up to say oh, your date's coming to pick you up. And the doorman called up and said, your date's not coming up. She said, oh, I'll come down. And she said, no. He said, no, your date's not ever coming up. Basically, the guy had used the doorman to stand Cindy up.
Oh my God.
Which was fantastic. And by the way, this was what was great about writing on a show like this when we were all single, which is what a shitty story, but it becomes a great jumping
Yes.
off.
Incredible. But also, like, what was going on with that man that he thought, I'm going to go to her address and have a conversation with the doorman? Really odd. Really odd.
But also, remember, this was before cell phones were like a really big thing.
Right.
Although interesting, also rewatching this episode is the first time and only time. So Miranda says when she meets the asshole,
Right.
here's I'm sorry. She says to someone, my cell phone number's on the back of my card.
It's the guy. Yeah, it's the guy. Yeah, at the wake.
Right. So she has a cell phone? Like what?
I know, but we've never seen it. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And she's also so giggly and kind of like weirdly needy when she's like, that's my cell phone and my email. And like, it's such a funny moment. Such a fun moment.
Because she's been stood up
by
a dead guy. But what we determined in that room discussion was the only time it would be okay to be stood up that way would be if your date literally had died.
I mean, yes.
And that became the story of...
Which I love so much. But when they're walking up and Carrie says, oh, it's an open casket. I've never seen a dead body. I mean, there's like, there's so much subtext and like death and darkness. And it was deep.
It was deep. And it's also about rebirth. I mean, it's about, Shakespeare called the orgasm the little death.
Of course.
And we are to assume that Charlotte achieved what she wanted.
Oh no, come on. In a minute and a half, or when she's trying to entice him?
I don't know.
I don't think she did,
but in
Jenny.
The phone conversation with Samantha at the very end, you can see she says, "Did you come?"
It's true.
I
giggle.
She got was positive.
Really? I mean, look, I think it's a huge accomplishment because at this point, the fact that it is ongoingly not happening for them is horrible.
Awful.
I didn't really remember this. I mean, obviously I was trying to do it well and everything, but like, I also just don't have a ton of experience with this. And certainly I've never been married, right? So like that's a next level. And I've never been so focused on getting married like Charlotte was. And like, obviously really gonna try. But then on the other hand, that man won't talk at all. Like, oh my gosh.
And he talked I had a good time writing because I grew up sailing. And so I had a good time writing all of the metaphors that he had for sailing as it applies to sex.
Yes. He enjoys that also, I think, Kyle. Yes. He gets a twinkle in his eye when he has them.
You two were so adorable as a couple. Like that's the other thing I was reminded of. And that was part of the problem, right? Is that Charlotte saw them as this perfect couple. They looked like the perfect couple. They appeared in essence to be right for each other, but in the bedroom, no.
Which is awful.
And he would not talk about it. And so for her to get up there and really say what she says to him, the physicality aside, like that's a really big deal for Charlotte to have.
Oh, I agree. And I was very scared and stressed. And I remember being so stressed about what I was going to wear. And I'd forgotten about the scene that I'm shopping with Carrie at like kind of a tacky shop. And I'm holding up those crazy things and she's trying to make jokes about it, but obviously I'm quite tense, about the whole thing. And I'm trying to say like, no, this is important. I have to show him that I'm not the Madonna. And then she's like, but you don't want to be the whore. She's making jokes, but like, it's so serious for Charlotte.
Oh, it's hugely serious. She's trying so hard. And I like also that we didn't shy away from the fact that it wasn't just that she felt rejected by Trey, but also that she was a sexual human being. So that
absolutely
she deserved to have pleasure and she deserved to have that attention. So that's a whole other level of story about a couple who's not getting it on. It's not just I'm annoyed by this. It's like I feel sexually rejected and I deserve and I want more.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a watershed moment for her.
Oh, it's incredible. And I mean, I was so happy to see it again in the whole episode. I mean, obviously I also have so much else that is going on. Like I go to the brunch with the sorority girls because I fought with Samantha. Like I didn't remember that this was literally one episode. It is amazing how much you guys could do in one episode.
I totally forgot about the sorority sisters. Like
right?
Honestly, and I wrote it and I forgot about it.
The thing I love about it, I love so many things, but do you know the brand Jacquemus?
Yes.
So Simon, who is the designer, asked me to do this little video for his fashion show, I guess a year and a half ago. And the scene with the sorority girls, the outfit was the inspiration for this whole video. And they had a picture of me. They wanted me to wear a tiny tank top. This is, of course, 25 years later, a tiny tank top with a sweater folded just perfectly. They had a picture and we had to call them on the FaceTime in France to make sure that we had folded it correctly. It was like to the detail. And he made a sweater and embroidered my invitation on it that I open in the video. And it was all inspired by that one outfit and that one scene in your episode.
Amazing. I have never heard that. And that is crazy and fantastic.
Exactly. And also I was like, I'm sorry, can I please have my arms covered? Because it's 25 years ago. Like, I can't live up to this. But I also remember filming that scene because we see them together and you set it up so brilliantly from the coffee shop with all of us where Samantha and I fight, which, I hadn't really remembered that. And when I watched it, I was concerned that I didn't do it well enough, like deep enough. I don't know. I was worried. The whole thing made me nervous watching it,
That's so interesting because, obviously we each look at our old material in different ways and in the ways that we came into the material, right? So you're looking at it as the actor thinking, did I portray this? I'm looking at this writer thinking, why did I need that extra joke? We didn't need that much. Why didn't we cut that?
Right.
But I feel like you did a terrific job and you were threading so many needles in this.
It's true. It's true. That part I was like, oh, okay, you did well.
Oh, yay. You gave yourself some silent applause.
Yeah, totally. And I'm very, very happy with the Trey scene, right? Which I had remembered being happy with it, but now I see it in so many tiny splits, tiny memes that I hadn't seen the whole thing. And I was like, no, it's really good. It's really good. Of course, because he's also really, really good. He has very little to say, but we're just so connected. Yeah. That's kind of the good and the bad of it, right? So I have the scene with I mean it's a lot for Charlotte, but fighting with Samantha always scary. You know what I'm saying? Like any of us disagreeing about anything to me was always scary, but it had been coming, right? Because she does have just the opposite point of view about sex than Charlotte, which has been true since day one. And now that Charlotte is married and it's not working out, of course, it brings up all of her deeper things about the meaning of sex and the meaning of all of it, which is really what she says to, like, don't talk about it like that way. And I think that, it's so fantastic that then you have me go off into like my past to see the sorority sisters thinking I'm going to feel comfort. But in fact, what I feel is discomfort because I'm now the Samantha and they're now very like shut down to honest conversation about sex. So then I become kind of like I act out. And I remember filming that because I had to be slightly drunk. So I was always nervous about that. Right. And I remember the reason that I put the money in the glass is because I had to storm off and then like say something over my shoulder and I would throw the money. And I threw the money one time and it landed in that. Yeah. Remember this?
Yeah. It was the perfect, couldn't have been better.
It was so good.
If we scripted it, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But
I know, it was so good. It was so good. So I enjoyed that scene a lot, but I did not realize it was all in one thing. And I think traditionally what we would have had would be Charlotte like a pressure cooker, right? Like she's not expressing her feeling, not expressing her feeling. And then there would have been like a blah, 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 type of a thing, But instead we have the Kyle scene and then she calls Samantha, which is so nice.
It's so nice. And I think what we did so well, if I might say so myself,
yes,
is we took each of these because Samantha has that same journey, right? Yeah. So she's sexual with this guy and she's fucking him all the time and who cares? It's just for fun. But then she meets kind of her doppelganger and it turns out that she's more Charlotte than she thought. So we push the boundaries of these women so that they can recognize that they have more in common than they think. And I think that's what happens. Like you make friends in your 30s, if you're lucky, your 40s, your 50s, whatever. And they're not 100% of who you are, but they represent a part of who you are. And in this case, getting Samantha and Charlotte to recognize that they have more in common than they think, and that there are boundaries that their old selves maybe don't want to go to. And that's been because they're impacted by this other person who's, they could not be more opposite, but they're really sharing a lot more than they realized. And I
Absolutely.
think such a cool thing to look at with friendships. And it was fun. I mean, that blowjob scene is so kind of crazy and like over the top, and the table going up and down.
Oh
and
my God.
The restaurant is really noticing.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. But you have to go a lot to out Samantha.
You have to. And even Samantha says, okay, that's more than I can handle. And so that's her moment where a little bit of Charlotte has gotten into her. And as I'm sure you've talked about on this podcast, but we've talked about all the time, is kind of, how much of you is Charlotte, how much of you is Samantha. Each person has different levels of which character they are.
Yeah.
In this case, they both have parts of each other in them. And I
Absolutely.
think it's really sweet.
I think it's so, so, so sweet. And also so, I think people forget about that, because people still say to me, like, would you and, Charlotte and Samantha would never be friends? I'm like, sure they would. You can't just be friends with people like yourselves exactly or whatever. It's boring. Like what?
And you grow up and in different phases of your life, you collect people who are more like what you need at that time in your life. And I think this is exactly who Charlotte needed. It's in that, like, because look, Carrie was hiding behind her menu. She's not going to have that straight ahead sex talk.
Right.
She needed to hear from Samantha the hard truth. And, it is hard. It's hard when the girls fight.
It is. It's scary when the girls fight. But I think that's also, it makes the relationship so much more real, because there are conflicts. If you stay in those relationships, there's going to be conflicts, and then you're going to get over it. Let's talk about Carrie and Miranda, because also they fight more than I realize when I'm rewatching, right? And fight's the wrong word. They disagree more than I realize. And they'll have weird, like in the first season, is it the first season or the second, where Carrie stands her up, stands Miranda up for Big, and then she calls someone and you think she's calling Big, but she calls Miranda, and you go and she's sitting there and they make up, and it's so sweet. Like there's right. There's so many like kind of ups and downs and hills, and their walk and talks are always so fascinating. I love their relationship more than I even ever realized that I love their relationship. And I love the complexities of it, and that they really, like, Miranda tells it like it is to Carrie more so than anyone else, which I love so much. And I love this one because I don't remember another time where Carrie is like, I mean, obviously Carrie has dated the guy before 8 years ago, and now they meet him at the wake, and Miranda is feeling all rejected because she was stood up by the dead guy. I mean, it's so much. It's so much to even retell.
Hearing it out loud, it's a lot.
It's incredible. Like, and so it moves so quick. Like, you guys just did such a tremendous job, as you know. But then Carrie's like, no, don't go out with him. Like, it's so rare for her to even, like, it's a very rare thing. Usually she's like, yeah, see what it is or whatever. You know what I'm saying? She's usually more kind of casual, happy-go-lucky or whatever about it. But since she's gone out with this guy and he was mean to her, like belittling, as we see later, like a very kind of like belittling, misogynistic, exactly. But it's super fascinating. And then I just love the scene where they find, so Miranda likes him because, of course, she's just wanting to feel, good and whatnot. And they go out and she talks Carrie into going for drinks, and they go for drinks. And then, of course, it doesn't take much for that asshole to come out. And then right away, Miranda, like maybe the third comment, Miranda's like, well, Carrie's not a, what does he say she is? It was something that she was.
Oh, God. I just rewatched it.
We just rewatched it, and I can't remember now, but it's so well written because Miranda's trying to make the best of it, right? And Carrie's like trying to reserve judgment, like, I'm just going to sit here. And he starts out okay. Like, there's a couple little things like, oh, she loves her shoes, and Miranda says, did you go see his band? And she's like, no, I never did. And he goes, well, she was too busy buying shoes. That's the first little dig, right? Yeah. And she goes, oh, I do. I love my shoes. And you can just see her like, what is he doing? And then he just keeps going. And then Miranda's like, well, you are. So, and I just love when they're back together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take
No. And that was good. That's as it should be.
as it should be.
Yes.
But she had to have that little journey. She had to have the moment of, and by the way, that's the thing with these kind of assholes. And this guy was kind of based on a guy that I had dated.
I was wondering.
Yeah. Who was an asshole and continues kind of to be an asshole.
Uh-huh.
And those guys can be very charming. And so
Yes.
she goes on a date with him and it's a lovely date. Like they close the bar, he kisses her goodnight. It's romantic, the whole thing. And she's like, as an audience, you're thinking maybe the guy has changed. Like,
Yeah.
Great. But Carrie knows better, or at least in this case, she knew better. And I think what's good too is that you think maybe for a second, oh, she doesn't want her to date him because she dated him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you realize, no, she was right. He's just an asshole because
Absolutely.
certain people like that don't change. Like they
I
don't
agree.
fall out of that.
He's very recognizable to me.
Yeah. I think we've all had one or two of these people in our life. Hopefully people are no longer in our lives like that. But
Most definitely.
yeah, but that is a type, and it's certainly a guy that uses his charm. It's a charm offensive, and
Yes.
then it's just offensive. Which that would have been a line we would have written in this episode.
So good. So good. Can you take me through? I don't think I've ever asked you. I've had Cindy on. I've had Michael on. I don't think I ever asked, I would love to just give everyone and myself too. Sometimes I wonder in the past, a breakdown of how it went for the process of you. Like, how did you get assigned which episodes within the season, and how much advance did you know, oh, okay, I'm writing that one and this is the theme, or, breaking the stories? What's the process like, or what was it like for Sex and the City?
So it pretty much stayed the same season to season, even as we got one or two more writers. But what we would do is we would talk at the beginning of the season about what we really wanted the arcs of each of these characters to be. So we knew where we were starting them and we knew where we were ending them. Things could change within that, but we knew, Charlotte was going to go from here to here. So by the end of the season, we want X to have happened. And then we would start to break down within it. We would talk about ideas and kind of themes that were important to touch on for each character. And then it would depend on the episode. So sometimes someone would walk in with just a great story. Like for instance, a woman's right to shoes. Okay, so I went to a party, I had to take my shoes off, and it really was upsetting to me. And it got me thinking about what would happen if someone took my shoes. Because also when you're a small person, your shoes are a very important part of your outfit. And I wish I had known I was going to take my shoes off, I would have worn something different. Okay. But sometimes you walk in with something like that and you go,
right.
Okay, that's a great thing to have happen. How can we use that to tell a story we want to tell? Which in this case was Carrie and her choice to be single and to spend her money how she wants to. Right.
Yeah.
So it became a bigger episode around that. And in that case, because I came up with, it was my idea, I will write that episode. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it has to do with order of, we would kind of start with, sometimes with seniority, Michael might write the first episode, I would write the second episode. And then sometimes there'd be an episode that you just knew a certain person had to write. Cindy had done her crazy trampoline stuff, not trampoline.
Oh yeah. High wire. The high line. What was it called?
Sounds like she had done that on the Hudson River.
Right.
And so she wanted to write about that, about taking chances and putting yourself up in the air, figuratively. And so sometimes it would be the thing that you knew that this person had to write because it's the thing that they really cared about thematically, or sometimes it was, hey, it's your turn to write an episode, but nobody would ever write an episode they didn't feel really attached to. That was important to us, that people write what they could feel. Right. When Miranda buys her house, I wrote that because I had bought my house and had gone through the exact same things.
Such a good one.
I love that episode.
Still so great.
So thrilling too that single women now outrank single men on buying houses.
No way.
25 years later, now single women are buying more houses more than men.
Incredible.
And then you think about what Miranda went through which is what I went through. She had to keep checking the box that says single woman, single woman.
Yes. This is my life, Jenny. I know all
Right?
about it.
So it's just it's still happening, but
Yep.
we have outpaced men, not surprising.
Yay.
So that's a long description of kind of how it works. Sometimes we'll break a lot of the episode in the room. We'll go through it and outline it and talk about because you also want to make sure that each of these characters are hitting certain points in each episode that they need to hit, right? So it might be that the episode is primarily about Charlotte not having sex with her husband and what that means, but how does that fit in with our other characters and the stories we need to tell for them at the same time? And then we get to place a fun theme on top, and also the question, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it was interesting because the question doesn't necessarily apply as specifically as sometimes it does, because the question was, are we getting older and wiser, or just
Older. Right. A really good question.
which applies in a lot of ways in a subliminal way to like friendships and learning what you have to do in a relationship. But it was really more about applied literally to Carrie giving that speech to these women and them saying like, well, you're still single and you're how
Oh
old?
my God. Yes.
Like, what do you have to teach us?
I know.
You don't seem any wiser.
Oh
You
God.
seem older and single.
That was scary too. The whole episode, there were so many times where I was like, you know?
I know. And fun
Yeah.
fact, I'm sure you noticed that Sarah Jessica stand-in was in the scene,
That's who it was. I was trying to figure that out.
and she asked a question. We always
Yes.
want to give our stand-ins who were terrific a chance to do on-camera work, and that was a case where she got to ask a question.
That's so nice. So wait, let's go back to the writer's room. Okay, so when you would get, like, you might know at the beginning of the season, like just have it marked out, oh, I'll do episode number 4, episode number 8, or whatever, like theoretically. And you would know the arcs, as you said, which also we were so wonderfully shared, you know, that information at the beginning. And as you said, sometimes it would change, but Michael Patrick would, you know, sit us down and say, like, this is the plan, just so that we could also kind of try to, you know, plan it out in our mind somewhat. And then sometimes when we got the script, it would be different, or, you know, interesting new twist or whatever. But then in terms of writing, so if you're in the room with everyone, would you do a rough draft and then take it in the room for them to read? Like, how did that part work?
Yes, you would go away for all or part of a couple days. Usually, you know, some episodes famously we had to write very quickly because we just didn't have as much time. Splat was one of those where Cindy and I wrote it together, and we wrote it in 5 days.
Oh,
But we loved every minute of it because it was fun to write it together, and also we knew exactly what we wanted to do. But yes, you go away from the room, you tippy type at home. This is how we tippy type. It's just like a pterodactyl.
Love it.
And then you bring it back in, and the room will read it and give thoughts, and then you'll go away again. And then it would go to HBO. But, you know, it's funny now looking back, we got very few notes from HBO. They were amazingly supportive. And I wish the world were set up the same way to trust writers a bit more to know what they're doing. There's a lot of second guessing that happens. And so people end up giving, I think, a little more notes than they need to.
I agree from what I know, and I'm not a writer, right? But I feel like because of the way that HBO was structured with Chris and Carolyn, really there weren't that many people. And Carolyn had the good sense to just hire the right writers and let you guys do your thing, which is just so rare.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't find it anymore.
You really don't. And I talked to her. I had lunch with her last week because we did the event for Sarah Jessica, and it was so nice to see her. And we talked a little bit about like just the, you know, fear in the industry, you know, and fear just breeds everybody being so nervous and like overthinking everything. And it's hard to create or have these kind of breakout hits like how we were in Heated Rivalry because they went to Canada where they had no budget, but they got to do what they wanted. And then luckily Casey was like, yes, I'll buy that. Good call on Casey's part, right? But, you know, it probably wouldn't have gotten made in the way that it did if it were here with all the different tinkering.
Yeah, and look, I'm so respectful of the fact that there are a lot of executives scared for their jobs and
Of
things are
course.
changing all the time and things are certainly not the way they were. And so
No.
there is this sense like I need to show my worth, but
Right.
it has kind of beaten down the creative process, and it was such nirvana to be. I mean, in so many ways, to be in the room we were in, to be working with the actors we were working with, to be telling the stories we were telling, but to be left alone to do that, it was really, it made the show better. It just did.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
when Carolyn did have notes, they were really smart.
Right.
And they were never about, I'm scared to do something. It
Right.
was like, do we want to do that? Okay, tell me why.
Right. That sounds just like her. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. You guys, this is so much fun that we are going to have a part 2. So join us later in the week on Are You a Charlotte?